For a long time, the restaurant industry has been trying to kick the reputation that it's just a destination for a minimum wage job, just a place you go to make some money to pay for gas or put yourself through college. In fact, the restaurant industry is a great opportunity for a career, and the industry is trying to show that you can actually go from a minimum wage job to the C-suite. There is nobody in this industry that embodies that better than Darden Restaurants CEO, Rick Cardenas. Rick started as a busboy at Red Lobster when he was a teenager and has now spent almost 40 years in the Darden system working his way up to the CEO position. I sat down with Rick to talk about that experience, how working through the system, working for multiple Darden brands in multiple functions, how that's benefited him in his role as chief executive. Rick Cardenas, the president and CEO of Darden Restaurants. Thanks for sitting down today.
Well, thanks for having me, Sam. This has been great.
Rick, we are going to get into your leadership style, your signature style, but obviously that starts at the beginning. We need to go back. Let's go back into your childhood. Tell me about what your childhood was like.
You know, I had a pretty interesting childhood. My parents both had fled Cuba before I was born. I was born in New York. Spent most of my life here in Orlando playing baseball. I was a baseball player. I loved being outside. My parents were divorced when I was young, so I really never knew my mother and father married. Mm-hmm. But, we had a very kind of, at the best, middle class upbringing, never enough to kind of go out to eat and do other things. So I spent my time, like I said, outside playing baseball.
So you have this incredible story of being a CEO who actually started in the company you are now CEO of. Your first job was as a busser at Red Lobster. Tell me about getting that job. Was it just you were trying to have some money for gas, or what was that all about?
Absolutely. So my parents, as I said, they moved out of the country when I was 16. So I was on my own since then. And I needed money to buy a car and put gas in the car. And I had never gone to Red Lobster. I'd never eaten there. I didn't even know what it was other than a seafood restaurant. And my best friend and I were walking to find a job and walked into Red Lobster and hired us on the spot. So we both started on the same day, 41 years ago this week.
Nice.
And, I worked there as a busser and worked my way up through the restaurant, and then spent, I would have been 41 years, but I left for a while to go back to school and to get some consulting experience and then came back. But, it's great to be leading the company where you started. Mm-hmm. And, I can tell that story to a lot of people and it kind of gives them hope.
So you started in your teenage years at Red Lobster. You go to college. Did you go specifically with the idea that you would come back to restaurants?
Well, I was working for Red Lobster while I was going to college. Mm-hmm. So, my original intent when I went to Red Lobster, as I said, was to buy a car and put gas in it. But I fell in love with the business of restaurants and I was determined to continue to grow. And so I knew that I had to get a better education. So I went to school full-time while I was working full-time. My ambition was to be a CFO. Mm. And so I figured, okay, I'll go to a Fortune 500 company and start there. And that's where I was.
Yeah. Again, I think the restaurant industry is really trying to tell this story of your life, which is you can start as a busser or a cashier and end up in the C-suite. So you are very emblematic of that path. But did you understand that when you were that age that the restaurant industry is a career for me? Or did you think I might end up in any industry? I might as well start here.
No, and I don't think most people think that either. Most people that work in restaurants are either wanting a job that's flexible. Maybe they're in high school and it's their first job. Maybe they're in college and they need to make some money to pay for some things. And most people come into this industry as a transient job. And so that's why we've got some fairly high turnover. But the people that see what it can do for them stay. We have 200,000 employees and we just celebrated 30 years as a public company, but we have a 52-year employee who started as a team member. And we've got a lot of them. It's hard to believe how many people have more than 40 years with us because they fell in love with the business. But most of them didn't go in to stay in it.
What have you learned from your career mostly in this one company and the potential you have fulfilled? How do you then turn that into the same story for your employees?
People ask me about my story so I can tell it. And when I do, you start seeing the gleam in their eyes. And I basically say, look, if I can do it, you can. this organization and this industry really helps people, and we change lives. I think it's about 70+% of our managers are promoted from within. In this restaurant, every manager started as a team member in this restaurant. And so some of them were tapped on the shoulder, not thinking they had a chance to do it or they had the ability, but they were told, hey, we think you can. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge for most people in our business, not thinking they have the chance to do it. I want people that really love being here and have the drive and ambition to go farther.
You have served a lot of functions at a lot of different brands within Darden. You have been in operations, you've been in finance, you've been in tech. Did you want to have that sort of comprehensive view of the company in that way?
Well, as I said, my ambition was to be a CFO of a public company. And every job I did, my first question to myself and to whoever was asking me was, would this make me a better CFO? And I knew the answer every time. The answer was yes. The broader you are, the better you are. My first job back in operations was running roughly 180 LongHorn Steakhouses, where my last job in operations was a server. And so everybody that reported to me was really great at what they did. And it made me a better leader because I can delegate and I can let them do their job. That was my first job out of finance, really. And then I was running all of operations for LongHorn Steakhouse. And again, I had even better people, not better, but even stronger people reporting to me because they were in bigger roles. And then I got asked something crazy and said, do you want to come back and run IT? I had never been in IT before, but I had the same philosophy is, look, these folks are going to forget more than I'd ever know. And I told them that too. And the great thing about it is one of the folks that reported to me at LongHorn Steakhouse is now the president of Chuy's. The person that reported to me in IT is now running IT for us. So, it's not like I demotivated them. I think I gave them other ways to think about things so that they can grow too.
Sure. You also served in multiple brands within the Darden portfolio. That too, I imagine, gives you a better view of the company. Tell me about working across the multiple brands in your work toward the C-suite. Again, was that intentional? And what kind of a view of the company did that give you?
I think it was intentional for me. I think it was intentional for Darden, not just for me. I grew up, as I said, in the finance function at Darden, and we are well known for developing finance talent. And one of the ways we do that is to give you different experiences. Even if it's the exact same role in a different brand, that's a different experience. And the benefit of our portfolio now with 10 brands, all in the same building, is you can move from one brand to the other and not have to commute differently. You just have to go to a different office. But you learn a little bit differently what that role is. And you also learn from different people. And that's probably the biggest learning, is working with other people. Yep. And so I was able to do that. I think before I became the CFO, the longest I had done anything was a little under 3 years. And that was a long time for me.
What would you say is one of the more challenging parts of your career? I mean, 40 years now, your career spanning almost 40 years at Darden. What were some of the moments that were the hardest? How did you overcome?
Yeah, I think there were two really tough times for me. And both of them were finance roles. Darden is well known for developing finance people. We've only hired 2 vice presidents from outside the company in finance, 2. Both of those times, there were jobs that I thought I was ready for.
Interesting.
Both of them. And interestingly, the first one was to run finance for Red Lobster. And I had spent 10 years of my life at Red Lobster. I bled Red Lobster. I knew that brand very well. And I wasn't even considered for the job. The second time it happened to me was when we hired a CFO from the outside. And I told you what my dream job was. Yeah. And I would tell you, our support center has roughly 1,000 people. 999 of them thought I was going to be the next CFO of Darden. Only one didn't. And it was the person that had to make the decision. Now, I understood why he made the decision. Fortunately, for me, it was only 9 months, and then I became the CFO. But let me tell you the advice I was given and what I did. So when it happened to me the first time at Red Lobster, somebody came to me and said, hey, I know you're probably wondering why. And this was a pretty senior person at Darden. He said, let me just tell you this. You've got a long runway here. You can get to wherever you want to be. You've got 2 options. One, you can complain about it. You can say why me, woe is me, whatever. Or by the nature of your actions and what you do, you can prove that the next time a job like this comes available, they're going to talk to nobody but you. So which one of those are you going to be? And so I guess you can figure out which one I was. And I tell that story to anybody that asks, not because I want to talk about myself, but because I want to explain to other people that you're going to get passed over for a job that you thought you were ready for. And in an organization like Darden, where we have very low turnover, where it's going to take you longer to get to where you want to be, it's more likely to happen.
Yeah.
And if you don't get passed over for a job that you think you're ready for, you're not dreaming big enough. So it's going to happen to you. The question is, how are you going to act? And because it happened to me, I can tell the story.